Please hold while we make sure speakers are off. Test. All right, we're all set. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 18th, our second regular meeting of the month. We are live in person here in City Hall as well as broadcasting via Zoom. We are going to go ahead and start off our session with the invocation. I will do that for a change and then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join us. Father, thanks for bringing us here together today. Thank you for the audience participation. I'd love to see more and more residents coming to our meetings to see what's going on and to weigh in on our issues. Please guide us through our discussions that they remain respectful and courteous to each other and to the audience and vice versa, and guide us that we might make the best decisions for our community. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, go ahead and call the meeting to order. Councilmember Kurtz. Present. Councilmember Ball. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Cargill.
Present.
Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
Councilmember Dunn.
Happy to be here.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Present.
And Councilmember Van Orman is sick tonight, so if somebody would like to make a motion to excuse her.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Spencer, second by Mayor Pro Tem Cargill. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. All right, we're up to agenda approval. Are there any requests for modifications before we move? Don't see any.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as printed. Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilmember Kennedy. All in favor of approving the agenda as printed, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We've got an agenda and we quickly came upon citizen comments. So this is a reminder, everybody, for those of you who are here in person and those on Zoom, citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes. There will be a countdown clock on the screen. It is truly a citizen comment period. We are here to listen to you, not to feedback or go back and forth. If there's something we need to follow up on, we'll make sure that we have your contact information. Please remind us your name and if you live in the city limits or not. We will take comments first in chambers, and if there's anybody online who'd like to make a citizen comment, please send a note to our meeting host in the chat feature. I think I got it. I need to just record that and play it at the meeting, like when I get it right. First up, we have David Clay.
Good evening. My name is David Clay. I live here in Liberty Lake. I'm here to speak to you about the health and safety of every Liberty Lake resident. Secondhand smoke directly affects every adult and every child. I provide each of you with factual data, reports, and government findings clearly showing the dangers and health risks associated with breathing secondhand smoke. I'm often asked if this is such a huge issue, why then hasn't anyone addressed it before? Well, not long after King County legalized marijuana as a recreational drug, their Health and Human Services wrote a report outlining their priorities to address the harmful environmental health impacts. For example, and I'll quote, breathing secondhand marijuana smoke may affect the health of non-smokers, including babies and children who are exposed. To mitigate community risk, we support efforts to protect against exposure to secondhand marijuana smoke. I left a copy with the city clerk of that report. That being said, some of you here may have reservations about whether or not this ordinance is right for Liberty Lake. But please keep in mind, this is not about taking away the rights of others. It's about protecting the health and safety of every resident to breathe clean air where they work, play, and live. The CDC, the American Cancer Society, as well as the Surgeon General, has recently reported the urgency of eliminating the disparities caused by secondhand smoke. The Surgeon General report stated, and I'll quote, as states and communities consider whether use of cannabis in public places should be permitted, protecting all populations from exposure to secondhand tobacco smoke, including exposure to cannabis smoke in all indoor settings should be a priority, unquote. Working with the Surgeon General to limit the disparities of secondhand smoke is the Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights. On behalf of ANR, with us tonight via Zoom is Ms. Char Day, who has provided a huge amount of support to this effort and is available to answer any of your questions. On a personal note, as a Special Forces retired combat veteran, I was exposed to environmental conditions that left me with extreme migraines. Being exposed to harmful secondhand smoke and chemicals increases my migraines, forcing me to become a prisoner inside my own home without the ability to breathe clean air. The air quality where we live is becoming so bad that we can't even go outside to sit on our back porch, do yard work, or play with our grandkids in the backyard. The very reason why I moved here in 2022. Regardless how one feels about marijuana smoke, no one should have to breathe secondhand marijuana or cigarette smoke where they live, work, gather, or play. If someone is using marijuana, tobacco, or vaping, they should do so in ways that do not harm or impact others. I realize this may be challenging, but I urge you to find reasons why you should support this and not look for reasons why you should not. Bottom line, it is important to protect the health and safety of every adult and child living here in Liberty Lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. All right, next up, we have Adam Wallace. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Adam Wallace, and thanks for letting me talk to you for a moment this evening. I'm a Liberty Lake resident. I'm a parent of twin 3-year-olds and a medical student at the University of Washington. I hold a master's degree in public health, another in biology, and a graduate certificate in cellular and molecular biology. So in short, kind of an expert on public health and the related effects of marijuana. I'm here tonight in support of the proposed chronic nuisance ordinance, specifically regarding the restrictions on tobacco and marijuana usage. The health effects of secondhand marijuana smoke are well documented. Marijuana and tobacco smoke contain fine particulate matter, toxins, and carcinogens. Studies show that exposure increases the risk of respiratory infections, asthma attacks, and decreased lung function, particularly in young kids like mine whose lungs are still developing. Secondhand marijuana smoke has been found to impair blood vessel function for hours after exposure, even in healthy adults. Children who breathe faster and take in more air per pound of body weight than adults are especially at risk. There's concern about the neurological effects of passive THC exposure, and research has shown that kids exposed to secondhand marijuana smoke have cognitive and developmental impacts. Marijuana negatively impacts the development of children's frontal cortex, impacting their attention span and decision-making abilities. In Liberty Lake, where homes are built in close proximity, mine's less than 8.5 feet from my neighbor's house, smoke does not stay confined to one property. While personal freedoms must be respected, those freedoms should end when they negatively impact someone else's health. Parents should not have to worry about their kids breathing in marijuana or tobacco smoke while playing in their own backyard. Some of my neighbors choose to smoke and they do it respectfully and they're considerate. When they notice my kids outside, they've always offered to stop smoking or go indoors. I think that's how it should be, but when that doesn't happen, there has to be a recourse for citizens. Children's health and safety should not rely solely on goodwill. Friends on my block live next to individuals who smoke outdoors 7 or 8 times a day, regardless of who else is out there. Right now, there's no legal avenue to address a situation like this. Families have to have a legal protection to ensure their right to clean air in their homes and yards. Legalized marijuana is relatively new to our state. And just like the evolution of alcohol laws took about 100 years, we must also evolve our marijuana and tobacco laws to balance individual rights and collective health. Marijuana use is increasingly common, and that makes exposure more frequent. This ordinance will provide a necessary path for residents to protect their health without confrontation. This is not about restricting personal choice. It's about ensuring that all residents, especially our kids, have a right to breathe clean air in their homes and in their backyards. I urge you to support this amendment and help keep Liberty Lake a safe and healthy place for all of our residents. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. All right, next up, Kristen Anderson.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Kristen Anderson. I am a Liberty Lake resident. I actually do smoke marijuana for medical reasons. And I feel it's important for people in my situation that have to use something like that to get through the day at times. And if I want to smoke marijuana on my back porch, I will do so. I'm very courteous of my neighbors. I don't stand by the fence and blow it over their fence. Our houses are decent apart. So I guess if this were to be passed, how would you take care of this? I mean, would the police department be going out to every house being called of marijuana smoke and everything? I mean, I don't know how this can be moderated. So, and also I'd like to point out that the state of Washington passed marijuana. It's the state. And there are reasons why. Some people use it as recreational. I use it as a medical reason. And I do not go out in public to smoke it. I do not go around children or parks. I go in my backyard, in my back porch, where I am alone and I know that I'm not being a nuisance. But if I were, I'd be very courteous to my neighbors to make sure that it wasn't bothering them. And I've even asked my neighbors if it has bothered them, and no. So I guess I'm just really curious, how would you even begin to even get this to be legal? I mean, I guess I'm a little confused on the whole thing of smokers and other things outside too, barbecues. So I'm not really clear on what the other things are. I just find it respectfully ridiculous. And honestly, I'm not surprised. I'm just not, why haven't we talked about other issues like children who are not even old enough to drive a car, riding go-karts down the pathway and about running you over when you walk your dog? I mean, that to me seems like something in this town that really needs to be looked at that could also be hazardous. I've almost been hit by a go-kart a couple times walking my dog, and I shouldn't have to worry about that. But once again, I'm just saying that I feel that if someone needs to smoke this in a way where it's, for their health, they should have the right. But I understand courteous too. Okay.
Thank you very much. I think I saw another yellow sheet pop up somewhere. And just a reminder, I know we've got one person online. If there's anybody else online who'd like to make a citizen comment, please send a note to our meeting host. Taylor, Demars, welcome.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Taylor Demars. I've been a resident of the Liberty Lake area for 15 plus years. I love this area. I grew up here, and I've gone from the cycle of being a 4-year-old child to now a parent of 2 young children. So I've seen the life cycle of how living in this area is, and I love it. And I appreciate your comments. Sorry, I didn't catch your name. That some people do have marijuana for recreational and medicinal purposes. I think obviously this has come to light because of those who are not etiquette and courteous as you are. And so it affects people like my family who have young children, and there's a certain resident on our street in question who openly smokes marijuana in his open garage, but obviously that it doesn't stay in his garage, and it prevents us from being out in our front area as he's doing it. And in certain days, the wind blows into our house and blows it into our house. So hard for me to feel like, that's an optimal, healthy environment for the community when that's affecting our family. So I would like to be a voice that represents, I'm sure many others in the community that is concerned about secondhand smoke. And while it may benefit some, one person for a medicinal reason, there are those that produce it recreationally, and it affects multiple people, not just the one person. So heavily support the encouragement of this ordinance. I'm also interested in how it gets enforced and, brought up for those who are etiquette conscious, but I think there are those that are adversely affecting the community in a sense that the reason I'm here tonight, and some of my neighbors as well. So appreciate your time and attention to the matter, and look forward to hearing more about it.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll jump to, and I won't forget you, Kelsey. I know we have written comments. We will go online. We have Tom Solberg.
Can you hear me?
Ian.
Good evening, Tom Solberg, 13 years living in Liberty Lake in the River District. I had the privilege of attending an award presentation on March 6th at Ridgeline High School, where Councilmember Dan Dunn received the Central Valley School District Meritorious Service Award. As someone who has had the opportunity and privilege again of being able to go to the schools, it is rare that I would ever go for any reason and not find Dan Dunn there supporting them. Congratulations, Dan. I know you probably wouldn't have mentioned this, but you embarrassed me a couple of years ago, so it's my turn to get back to you. Job well done, and thank you for the support constantly of all things Liberty Lake, but especially in our schools.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, do we have anybody else online? No? Okay, Kelsey, I know we had some written comments.
Yes, we received written public comment from Taylor DeMars, Brian Lozier, Greg Spears, June Johnson, and Lynn Adkins, all regarding the workshop on secondhand smoke.
Great, thank you very much. All right, moving on, just a reminder, there will be another opportunity for citizen comment near the end of the meeting. We are up to announcements, proclamations, and special presentations. First up is the program profile on crime prevention.
And so I'm going to ask Chief Simmons to come to the lectern to present this program profile. This is the next in our series. And Chief, take it away.
Good evening, members of the council. Mayor. Sean. I'm going to try to do this without hacking. I've been getting over a cold, so. Jokes?
Oh, it's up.
Okay. Just trying to think of an appropriate one. So today I want to talk to you about our crime prevention program when it comes to priority-based budgeting. So what exactly is a crime prevention program when we talk about law enforcement? Well, I'm blind. And just to let you know, I just got a prescription for glasses. That's a joke yesterday. So a crime prevention program is an organized effort by law enforcement to reduce crime and enhance public safety. And how do we do that? Through proactive and reactive measures. Next slide. So our crime prevention program here at the Liberty Lake Police Department, the description is prevent crime by proactively and reactively policing using proven methods of policing, such as, but not limited to, vehicle and foot patrols, bike patrols, prowl checks, emphasis patrols, public education, etc., special presentations. All right, and also to maintain those contractual obligations that we have with our partners, such as the sheriff's office and scraps. But one of the things we've been really focusing on are our data-driven, taking a data-driven approach to our crime prevention program. And so thus, that's one of the reasons why we hired a crime analyst this year to make sure that we're doing that, okay? We also address things like prowl checks and also documenting our activity. We really focused on documenting our crime prevention activities this year. What we're doing, when we're doing it, the time that we're doing it, so that we're able to pull that data when citizens ask, hey, how often are you in our neighborhood? Officers in our neighborhood patrolling. We can answer those questions. Next slide. So I'm sorry, can you go back? I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself there. So as you know, we have two service types when it comes to programs in our priority-based budgeting. Community and governance. Our service type for crime prevention is community, and you can see how those costs are allocated here. The total cost, I wouldn't pay too much attention to the FTEs because everyone in our agency has a job or something to do with crime prevention when it comes to our priority-based budgeting. So that those numbers are a little skewed, but you can see how those costs are allocated through personnel and non-personnel as well. Next slide. Our basic program attributes. Has there been a change in the demand for the program? There's been an increase, of course, with our increase in our population and also the increase in our commercial growth. We're going to see an increase for this program. Is it mandated to provide the program? It is a self-mandate by ordinance. Of course, we don't technically have to have our own police department, but we're fortunate enough to have our police department. The portion of the community served, a majority of the population is benefiting from this. There's no cost recovery right now, but we are exploring some options, specifically revolving around traffic and traffic enforcement to hopefully in the future maybe have a program where we can see some cost recovery when it comes
Mayor's
to
Court. Mayor's Court.
Mayor's Court.
Yeah, I
Let's
can
do
go on the
it.
tickets.
Let's do it. You heard it here first. All right. And the reliance on the city program, city is the sole provider and currently the sole provider for this program, even though we do have a few smaller things that we outsource. But we're becoming more and more self-sufficient and independent. And hopefully in the future, we can eliminate some of those smaller things that we're dependent on as far as the sheriff's office, et cetera. Next slide. Our alignment with our community results as outlined in our strategic plan for the city. There's an extreme alignment with public safety and well-being. There's some alignment with quality of life and connectedness. A minor connection to economic vibrancy and opportunity, and also minor as the same with planned growth and infrastructure. Next slide, please. So how do we measure our results when it comes to crime prevention? Well, it's pretty simple. Our crime rates are trending down each year. We're making that top, hopefully top 15 of Washington's safest cities and moving up that list. We see a low rate of violent crime and also property crimes, which we know that property crimes are our biggest problem around here. And we're working diligently to try to solve those and deter those. And people feel safer each year. And how do we know that? They're saying so in our community satisfaction survey. Next slide. Any questions or comments? I did that without coughing.
Yes, very, very good. Anybody have, Councilmember Ball, go
What
ahead.
was the 15th? We're 15th on what list? You said
Washington's safest cities. I think we were 19 last. Is that right, Mayor? I want to say 19.
19.
19th last year. So we want to move up that list. We want to shine.
Councilmember Dunn.
Hey, I just want to thank you, Chief. The program coverage is great. And to me, this is like the meat and potatoes of the core, what are the services the city provides. So yeah, totally accurate in the description of the program and a really important one for me.
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Nope.
Oh, I thought you sure. I just saw your hand up. Anything else? All right, thank you.
And sir, I'll have a joke for you the next time.
I got some. If you need any, I'll let you borrow
You don't need all your.
All right, next up, we have introduction of new employees. We've had people moving up, moving out. Unfortunately, Kelsey is moving across the country. So we do have an action item for her replacement a little bit later tonight, but we also have some other new employees that we wanted to introduce since we haven't done that in quite a long time. Mark?
So I'm going to ask Chief to come back up since he's so close to the podium because we've got a couple of new introductions to make.
Just left.
I'm going to.
Oh,
Oh,
is
he's
he?
got, okay.
it's called.
That's all right. Come on up. Come on up.
You don't look like the guy who just left.
Well, it's a vast difference.
So we're at the end
From a
of,
different
we're at the
month.
end of March and what that means is that we've gone through a cycle of recruiting and hiring based on the budget adoption that occurred that included some new positions. And so some of these are all of these that you're going to meet the new folks for our new employees to the city. 3/4 of these are in new positions. I also want to point out that although these individuals aren't here with us tonight, Chris Carragher and Brandon DePaulo have been promoted to new positions within the organization. And this is one of the cultural things that we pride ourselves on in being able to identify individuals who are high performers in the organization and making sure that they have opportunities to move up when those opportunities present themselves. And so Chris and Brandon have recently become crew leads for roadside and golf course. And so we're proud of their achievements and wish that they or hope that they stay with the city for a long time. And so Deputy Chief, if you want to go ahead and introduce Nichelle. Nichelle is our new investigative analyst. You heard Chief mention that earlier. This is one of the new positions that was created in the 25 budget. And Deputy Chief, take it away.
So Nichelle Saul, she comes up from the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. She was an analyst there for about 7 years. She has a history of analyzing all sorts of criminal data from all her time back in the Army. And a little side note I'd like to throw on there is that my wife was actually her drill sergeant when she was going through the Army. And I just happened to be a drill
Love you
sergeant.
mentioning that.
Yeah, I'll share a picture with y'all later. So she's been an analyst for a number of years. So it's been since 2004 when myself and my wife are drill sergeants back in Huachuca. So that's when she first started being an analyst. So that's how long she's been doing this for us. So I don't know if she's online, but I'd love to have her say a few words if she's online.
I don't see her. Evan is
Not
no.
online? Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, DC. I'm going to invite Ben Turner to introduce our new Public Works landscape lead. And so Ben, if you're on. If you'd
I'm here, Mark. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, go for it.
So we just recently, Dan Mouse started with us. He's our horticultural crew supervisor. He's also a certified arborist. He has many titles: urban forester. I think City Hall's been calling him tree guy. I believe Dan is on. I see a Dan in the attendees. I don't know if you want to promote him, Evan, real quick. But Dan comes to us from the county. Lots of experience taking care of stuff that's green. Also some other experience. Really impressive resume, and he's hit the ground running. He's been with us since the 4th of March. We're hoping to get him a truck tomorrow, but he's already getting around and taking care of the forest within the city of Liberty Lake.
Welcome, Dan. We see you've been promoted. There you are. You're on mute, though. No, welcome. Glad to have you. Would you like to say a couple words at all?
Sure, I'll introduce myself. So, good evening, everybody. Yeah, I came to Spokane area maybe 8 years ago, based off of a pros cons list for climate, access to outdoor recreation, and just overall good people. So, I've been in land management and arboriculture for the past 10 years, most recently with Spokane County Parks, where I worked as their natural resource specialist, managing the conservation areas that are county owned. I'm really excited for Liberty Lake to start working more towards the urban forestry program and horticulture program, and I feel privileged and very fortunate to be the one chosen to represent the plants and trees in the area. So, thank you, everyone.
Welcome.
Thanks, Dan. Next, Lisa Key is going to introduce a new building inspector. If you all remember, up until very recently, our longest tenured employee, Wayne Hammond, retired. And so to build back the ranks of our building inspection team, we've hired an individual to come in and help us with that. Lisa?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and council members. Yeah, so I'm very excited to have Mike Blackwell joining our team as a building inspector. He's very well qualified. He's got both his residential and commercial inspector's certifications, and he comes to us from Post Falls. He was there for about 7 years. He also has some experience in Mason County, Washington, similarly doing residential inspections. So he's very well qualified. Evan, can you promote Mike to panelist, please?
He already is.
Oh, okay. Mike, do you want to say a few words and introduce yourself?
You're on mute, just in case you're wondering.
There we go. How about now? Can you guys hear me?
We can.
All right. So Lisa kind of covered a lot of what I was going to say. I started in Mason County back in 2017 as an inspector. Moved over to Post Falls in 2018. Been over there since. Last summer, I moved to North Spokane with my wife, and we kind of wanted to get back into Washington for working, and I wanted to get back into Washington for inspecting, and Liberty Lake popped up and kind of hopped on that. And yeah, it's been great over here. I've only been here for 2 weeks so far, but it's been great.
Well, welcome.
And then finally, council, I'm going to ask Kyle to come up. We've got 2 folks that have joined the finance and admin department, and both of those I think are here in the chamber. And so he'll be able to introduce his new team members. Kyle.
Appreciate it, Mark. Mayor, Council, it is additionally my pleasure to introduce Cody Melnick as the city's new AP and procurement specialist. He comes to us from the private sector most recently, but he does have plenty of public sector experience, most recently with Columbia Basin College. And so in the short term, he's going to dive right into the AP function, finance and purchasing policies, obviously get him set up with all of our purchasing accounts, of course. Long term, obviously, it's going to be Public Works, kind of streamlining those bidding procedures, capital purchasing, inventory, grant research and execution, all that great stuff. So it is my pleasure to introduce Cody Melnick.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Happy to be part of this wonderful city. Moved out to Spokane region about 3 years ago. Originally from Western Washington, but I like to joke I'm trying to move my family back east. They're from Western Montana. And I am just very happy to get back into the public side purchasing and be able to be a good financial steward in partnership with the wonderful team that I just joined.
Okay, welcome. Not quite a weekend, right? Or just out a week?
I started last Monday of
Okay,
last week.
so you're okay, a little over a week. All right. Welcome.
And then we'll dive in a little bit later to our city clerk that's on the agenda tonight. Rochelle Catan is in the audience tonight. We'll dive into that a little bit later in the meeting.
And so I can say collectively, with this group that's joined the city, we're very excited with respect to the just enthusiasm, the skill set. We're well positioned to continue meeting the objectives and priorities laid out in our strategic plan and our priority-based budgeting transition. And so we're excited about the future of the city and the staff with the addition of these members. Although we are exceedingly sad to see Kelsey go, we trust she's going to be following what's happening from afar and staying in touch.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. We are up to reports and inquiries. First up, city council. Are there any city council reports? Councilmember Dunn.
Hey, I'll do a public safety resource reminder. I've spent the past couple of days working through a deceased family member and an unpacking of a house. And in chronic illness, you can imagine unused and expired medications tend to accumulate. Pills, capsules, syrups, gels, they don't go into our waste stream. I'll speak for our water district. You don't put it in the toilet and you don't put them into solid waste. There are pickup locations, one of which is right at our very own public safety building. Right in the foyer of our police department is a place, a drop box, kind of a mailbox looking facility for you to bring prescription medications of any kind that you are not using. So I just tell you, they're kind of few and far between. I came from the one at Pines and Sprague, the Rite Aid. It was taped shut because it was full. So I'm very grateful for that resource in the community, and please take advantage of it.
All right, any other council reports? Councilmember Vol.
I don't know if all of you noticed, it's been a while now, but I think we probably all got the email from a gal named Brianna Franzen about doing a free chipping program here to chip your pets, your dogs or cats. So if they get lost, you can find them. So there was a lot of back and forth trying to get a hold of these folks because their organization's called STAR, which stands for Short Term After Hours Rescue. So we were calling in the day, but they're not there. They were just getting the, what do you call it? The emergency line or whatever. So anyway, we are in touch, and Tate and Mark and I have been circling back with these folks, and we hope to get something going. They bring a tent, they have everything, they bring everything. It's just figuring out a date that works for the city, but they're doing this in the Valley and the city of Spokane as well. So I just think it'd be a really great opportunity for folks to get their animals chipped. Every time you go on any kind of social media, it's like, my cat's lost, my dog's lost, and if everybody had their animal chipped, we wouldn't have to deal with those problems, which are really sad because everybody loves their pets. So anyway, I am excited.
All right, thanks for working on that. All right, anybody else? Councilmember Kurtz.
Let's see, the rules of procedure meeting, Councilmember Kennedy and Councilmember Spencer. I think we're about a little bit less than halfway through the governance manual, reviewing that. So we'll hope to have that to everybody here. Meeting every Friday until we get it done so far. And then with social media and the ethics policy, Linda has been giving me some different information from different cities. And I think there's just a lot of resources out there. So it's more figuring out how to organize it. And then we'll look to have Sean take a look at it from a legal perspective and then get our group back together and get it to Mark and stuff too before we get it to the council. But things are moving along a little slowly on the social media side, but that's not because of anybody else, that's because of me. So yeah, I think there's good work being done, and then we'll meet again for the ordinance review committee on Monday.
Sounds good. Thanks for all your hard work on that, guys. Anybody else? All right, not hearing any, I'll jump into my mayor's report. Not a lot since last meeting. The SRTC meeting was last week, and we're quickly getting our admin meetings on the calendar as well, since I'm the vice chair. So those will be additional ones that I'll be attending almost every month. Coming up tomorrow is our Spokane County elected officials meeting. That's where we talk growth management and all things associated with that. Visit Spokane meetings board meetings coming up tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow, I was asked to be one of the judges at Ridgeline High School for the annual Battle of the Green. So I didn't do it last year. I was there the year before, and it is amazing to see these kids come together as classes and do all these different activities. Just it's kind of a spirit award type of deal. So I'm looking forward to taking part in that tomorrow. They do all kinds of fun, silly things. Several GSI meetings coming up. Valley Chamber Board meeting tomorrow morning. No. One of the next, it's either tomorrow morning or the next Wednesday. The Valley Chamber Business Awards, though, are tomorrow night, 5 o'clock at Center Place. So I know Mark and I are attending. I don't know if anybody else is. So it's always great to go and support our local businesses at those events. And coming up this coming Tuesday at 2 p.m. at the PD, I was contacted by Holly Stingline, who I've worked with on a couple other things. She's with the Washington Department of Veterans Affairs. And she is one of the suicide prevention specialists. So she had already partnered with the city of Olympia and Lacey in promoting the 988 license plate emblem. And she asked if the city of Liberty Lake would be interested in partnering as a municipality to promote the suicide prevention 988 emblem. So Department of Licensing only had 15. We'll be looking at getting more, but next Tuesday, we're going to be meeting the Department of Veterans Affairs at the PD at 2 o'clock to put the first decals on one of the police cars with the intention of getting all of our road license vehicles to have that on there. It's just go, it can go on any license plate. This is 988 suicide prevention. So they're going to be doing a little press thing. So David, I thought I saw David here somewhere. Is he hiding back there? I'll make sure I get that on your calendar as well. So the crisis line was launched in November of 2021 to connect people experiencing a mental health crisis with local support resources. The emblem was developed in partnership with the Department of Licensing as an addition to an already existing Washington state license plate. So we will be doing that next Tuesday. I'm happy that City of Liberty Lake is willing to be part of that. All right, that's all I've got. City Administrator report is next.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Council, I'm going to walk you down a couple of reminders of events that are upcoming. The first one is a week from tonight. We're going to have the Capital Investment Strategy Workshop here at City Hall at 6 p.m. And for anyone who may be listening that's been following the conversations, there's been a lot of social media discussion about capital investment. If you're interested in that, want to learn more about it, what our plans are, come next Tuesday night and listen to that discussion. I will tell you that we will not walk out of next Tuesday with an agreed upon plan. This is going to take some time to get to a resolution, but we're going to start in earnest next Tuesday at this workshop. The policy committee cutoff for the opposite house. This is a legislative term that occurs next Wednesday or I'm sorry, 2 Wednesdays from now, April 2nd. The reason I point that out is because as each of these cutoffs occur, fewer and fewer bills survive them. And so when we give our legislative updates, you will see the impact on the ones that we're following that are tied to our legislative priorities as those lists get winnowed down as we approach the end of session. Next item is a waste management VIP tour that is scheduled for Tuesday, April 22nd. That is at the newly rehabbed recycling center that Waste Management runs up off of Geiger. So they've invited the council members to come out and take a VIP tour of that facility. If that sounds cool to anyone else who is not a council member, consider the next item, which is the 2025 City Academy, where a tour of the same facility is scheduled for one of the session weeks. And so this is an 8-session course that really just gives residents and anyone else who may be interested an opportunity to come and listen to folks talk about and take field trips to see how the city delivers services, who it partners with to deliver other core services, how it allocates resources and makes decisions. And so if you're interested in learning more about the city, potentially one day getting on a board or a commission, or even running for an elected position, this is a great way to start and learn more about Liberty Lake. And then finally, and this one is way far down the calendar in June, I mention it only because registration for the AWC annual conference, which this year is in Kennewick, has opened. So if you're interested in attending the AWC annual conference, get with Kelsey, Rochelle, in the future, and we can get you registered. Any questions about those things before we move on?
Where's the waste management thing? On Geiger?
It's at their recycling facility up as you're going toward the airport. And we'll get you all the details if you're interested in going. I just mentioned it.
I've done the sewer reclamation thing, so you know, I'm up for a tour.
And it's a very, I've been on the tour. It's an outstanding facility. It's great. So I encourage anyone who wants to see that to sign up. Any other questions?
Mark, real quick before you move on, I have on my calendar, I just put this on, I can't remember where I found it though. April 26th is the the Clean Green event. Is that true?
That is the Clean Green event for the city. Yes. And we will be briefing that starting next council meeting, but you will start seeing information circulated to the public soon.
Okay, great. I just saw in the last couple of days.
Yes.
So I was glad we had a date for that. People are always asking. Thank you.
And so now we move to departmental reports. This is the second meeting of the month, and we've distributed and want council to have the opportunity to ask any of our department heads questions, their respective reports.
Go ahead, Councilmember Vol.
I had a question for Lisa. Are you there, Lisa?
She's on.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay, let's see, let me find it here. Well, I can't find it, but currently under construction, there's 3-story mixed use, 21801 Indiana, and then Harvard Lofts. Is that right across from New Love Coffee?
So the Harvard Lofts is right on the corner next to the Welcome Center in the River District. And the 3-story mixed use building is right across the street from the Welcome Center.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
So the last item is a revisitation of something that we talked about last year. Council had expressed an interest in possibly taking council meetings offsite, possibly into parks. And so before we do build scopes and get specific cost quotes and start planning logistics, we've got preliminary quotes that I wanted to provide to you to see if there's any interest in continuing this. And because of some of the requirements that are out there for presentations and people being able to see them and certain types of communications, packing a kind of a deployment bag to pick up this facility and move it out to a park, for example, to have a meeting is going to be about $10,000 a pop. And so before we do anything else, I just want to find out whether we're still interested in that so that we can either continue planning or not.
No. Hey, Mark, I'd say I'm grateful for the research, and I recognize the hardship of trying to create something from nothing, I'll call it. I guess I'd want to try and say fallback on any other, I'd say traditionally public facing public meeting location. Just someplace besides the city hall that may exist that may not have such a financial burden. Just enabled somewhere in our community, I guess, if they're out there. I think of our schools, that kind of thing. I just think it's an important objection to try and see if there's another venue that we can try and reach people and participate.
Anybody else? Councilmember Kurtz.
Just for a regular city council meeting, I don't know if it's worth it to be out and about in that way. But I do still like the idea of doing more town halls. So if there was to Councilmember Dunn's point, a place where there's a bigger gathering area where we could have more of a town hall about particular topics, I would support that, hoping that the cost is less.
And I'll say for those kinds of events, other than the charcuterie board, the cost is minimal, right? This is purely associated with having to run a business meeting. That was the question that we asked. So those kinds of events, no.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right.
So that concludes my report, Mayor.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. We have the Library Board of Trustees. Boy, you got pulled in really quick, didn't you,
Right
Doctor?
into
Thanks for stepping up.
Yes, good evening. Thanks for having us. So we will provide a quick update on the library, so some interesting statistics and a couple of exciting updates there. Next slide, please. So let's go to the next one. So when I was here a couple of months ago, we made this commitment, that we will have communication and collaboration and transparency with the city council. So we want to follow on that. The first step is want to show you a little bit kind of the role that the new board, the current members of the board, and then the roles that each of us picked into this. And we thought it's a good idea to have specific tasks that we focus on. So Brad is here today. He's going to continue to be our board chair. He also will, or board president, and he will be the one that will work closely with the Friends of the Library. Anna will be our board secretary. The next position there, we had to do rock, paper, scissors a couple of times. No, it's good. So I picked this as, the person who will try to communicate and be close to you guys, in the upcoming years. And then Jennifer is our newest member of the board. With this, I want to pass it to Jandy, who will talk a little bit about some statistics and again, some updates.
Thank you.
So if you guys can remember, in June, I will be giving you my in-depth statistic report. As a librarian, we love our stats, but I wanted to brief you guys on just some of the highlights from 2024 since, June feels a little bit far away. So we've created some graphs. Michael and I worked on this presentation really closely together. So I wanted to start out with library cards. I have statistics from 2022 through 2024. Our library card statistics are up significantly. Since I've been a librarian, I feel like we have been hovering around this 6,000 number of cards. But in 2024, we are up to 7,428. So it's basically 1,000 from the year before, which was 6,505. So it's really wonderful to see our library growing and expanding in this way. If you can remember, throughout the year, we do deletes of patron accounts. So these are not showing accounts from that somebody made in 2003 and then they've never set foot in the library. If their account hasn't been used in 2 years, it gets deleted so that we can make sure that these are accurate numbers and they're not being inflated. So I love seeing that growth. The next thing I wanted to point out is our visitors. So in 2022, we were at 50,931 visitors. In 2023, we were up to 62,628. And then last year in 2024, we were up to 69,575. So the library is growing. I think we've heard in a couple council meetings that the library is the place in the city that gets the biggest footprint. And I think that's something that you can definitely see from our foot traffic in the library. Next is our meeting room reservations. If you can remember, in September of 2022, we transformed our small computer lab room into a study room. So we've been using that for over 2 years now. Our usage in 2022 was 156 since it was just that final quarter. In 2023, it moved up, basically doubled to 382. And then last year, we were up to 455. So over the course of the 2 years, we've tripled our usage. And I know our usage is going to be even higher in 2025. Most days we average about 3 to 6 people, 3 to 6 reservations in our study room, where it's just back to back, 10 to 12, 12 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8. Like it is heavily used. And so I'm looking forward in the new library being able to have multiple study rooms. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is our physical book checkouts versus our ebook checkouts, because I have heard some discussion over that on what the usage is for ebooks versus physical books. How many books are we going to need in our new library? Do we need more? Do we need less? So I wanted to show you what our usage is for Liberty Lake. So I have the data over the past 2 years. So in 2022, our ebook checkouts were 25% of our checkouts. So we had 25,279 ebooks checked out versus our physical checkout usage which was 97,926. So basically 98,000. So that was 25% of our usage. Now in 2024, we have moved up to 30% of our usage. So we are at 36,043 ebook checkouts versus 119,344. So we've bumped up to 3 out of 10. Looking at national trends, the national trend is, we do coincide with the national trend, which is basically 3 out of every 10 people do like and prefer to use ebooks. Millennials use use the library more than any other generation. If you're looking at boomers, Gen X, millennials do use the library a lot more heavily. Something else that I wanted to point out that I think is very significant, only 4% of children's books are produced digitally. Parents prefer that their children learn to read and are reading picture books and chapter books. They're not asking for more screen time. So I think that that is very significant when we're talking about a new library, that we want to make sure that we still have a large, robust children's collection, teen collection. Another interesting thing that I learned is I think we have this perception that if you have vision challenges, oh, a Kindle's great because you can make the font a lot bigger on a Kindle. But a lot of people will say it hurts their eyes to use that. And a lot of elderly people don't feel comfortable using a Kindle. They prefer that physical book. So I don't see ebooks overtaking physical books anytime soon. And that's something that I want to continue to incorporate in our new library plan, is planning for a collection that grows with our community as we grow. If you remember, I mentioned our level of service right now is we provide 2 books per member of our community. So our community is around 13,000. Our collection should be around 26,000. Right now, we're a little bit over 27,000. So if we're looking at a community of 21,000, we would want to be able to provide that community 42,000 books in our new library to keep up with that same level of service. I don't think we want to go into a new library telling our community that there's less books than what they are accustomed to. So that's the statistics portion. Okay. So next slide, Evan. Did you have Sorry. So I've mentioned in a couple other quarterly reports that we've gotten some new apps. The first one is Mango Languages, which provides over 70 languages that you can learn on your phone. It's very similar to Duolingo, where you have a lesson that you can do each day of the week if you want, or just as you have time on your own pace. Next slide. The other new learning app that we got, or not learning app. The other new app we got is a streaming app. It's called Canopy Streaming. It has adult materials and kids materials. The kids materials are primarily like PBS shows and storybook videos. And then for adults, there's a lot of BBC, there's documentaries. They have a contract with Warner Brothers, so they do have some new movies. It's not like old, it's not just, old stuff that maybe nobody wants anymore. And we had really, really good usage on it last month. We had 147 shows, not just like 1 second, 147 shows that people viewed last month, which I think is really great with only being able to get the word out on this app for 1 month. So I think we found something that people like, which is wonderful. Me and Michaela were getting discouraged by some of the database usage that we had seen over the past couple of years. So we were floored when we saw that this last month. So the main thing I wanted to show you guys with this is on the next slide, Evan. So Michaela, who is our teen and adult librarian, is also a cataloger. So she has some amazing skills. So if you notice on this screen, at the top of the search bar, we've typed in French language. And the first thing that you'll see coming up on the search bar is our new Mango Languages learning app. So she's basically integrated it into the catalog So when you search any language, it's going to pop up Mango Languages. Hey, you can download this app and you can learn French on your phone. You don't necessarily have to come into the library and check out a book. So I think personally, when you're trying to learn a language, having something like this is really helpful versus just, reading a book. So we're just trying to get the word out about different things that we have. So the same thing applies for Canopy streaming. If a patron searches for a show or a movie that we have in Canopy, when they search it, it will come up. You can watch this on Canopy streaming right now. You just need to put in your library card and put in your password, and you can stream it now. You don't have to come to the library. You don't have to wait for it to come from another library. It's here. So that's something that we're really excited about that she's been able to integrate. The last thing, sorry, I didn't want to do like 3 screenshots, is she's also integrated it with some, if you like this book, you might like something else. So our book that is has the highest hold counts right now is called The Women. It's by Kristen Hanna. It's a historical fiction. It has like 70 people on hold for it. We do have 30 copies of the book throughout the consortium. So it's not as long as a wait list as it sounds when there's 30 copies moving around. But she's created a similar bar where it will say, while you're waiting for your hold on The Women, click on this and it will give you 10 other books that you can put on hold right now and that you can read that are similar to The Women. So kind of just giving people something to do while they're waiting. These are some other books that you might also like. So we're really excited about Aspen, which is this app that we bought that gives us this software, is that it's giving us a little bit more options than we had just with Koha. So we're really excited about it, and it's just some stuff I wanted to show you.
Great.
So Michaela's amazing. Okay. Next slide, Evan. Okay. So 2 more things. The last couple of years have been working with Ridgeline High School and Spokane County Library District. Spokane County Library District hosts a poetry slam with the schools. So this is for high school students. They do it at U-High. They do it at CV. And we hosted a poetry night at Boko Pop here in town for the kids to practice their poems before they have to do the actual poetry slam. We had 16 teens show up, and they were able to, sip on some drinks and practice their poems in a smaller crowd and get some good feedback from Michaela and some of the other teens that were there. So they're going to be doing that. I think it's the end of March is the real poetry slam. Michaela will be participating in that again as one of the judges for the program. And we're just really excited to be able to partner with the school on something like this. The last thing I wanted to talk about is Master Gardeners. Liberty Lake is a gardening community. We love our gardening. We brought the Master Gardeners back again this year. They're doing 3 more classes. In February, they hosted a class on bulbs. In March 1st was our class on low maintenance gardening, which sounds like something right up my alley. Not too intense. And then coming up in May will be our program on seed saving. And the library is actually looking into starting a seed library, which is where it's really cool. A lot of the libraries will get those old school card catalogs that have the tiny little drawers, and they will put seeds in them. And you can come to the library and take home some free seeds to start a garden with. Or if you have too many seeds, you can bring some to the library, and then somebody else can, take those off your hand. So free books, free seeds, I think it goes hand in hand. So do you guys have any questions for us?
I have two quick comments. So one is we've been watching with excitement the discussions that you've had recently about the possibility of having a new library at the town square and the community flex center. So we're really supporting this and very happy to help in any way we can. And then second, want to communicate more with you. So really looking for ways to do that, reach out to Jenny or I, and we'll love to talk to any of you and citizens and so about how can we do things better for our library. Thank you.
Super. Thanks so much. Great information, Jandy. You guys are doing great things. Anybody else? Dan?
Hey, I just want to say I'm
another reminder maybe regarding a resource, not to discuss tonight, Jenny, but I was able to check out the Spokane Symphony tickets that the Friends of the Library presents for Spokane Symphony's Masterworks 6. A Sunday afternoon at Fox Theater for my family, be able to be exposed to and be able to understand. And I'd say I'm thinking of being a season ticket holder next year. So I just want to get out there and take advantage of that in the community. It's a wonderful resource.
Yes, we love being able to partner with the Friends on the Spokane Symphony. Anna, who's also on the board, took her daughter last year to the symphony. It was the first time they had gone to the symphony, and they've decided to make it a yearly thing. So I think it's a great way to dip your toe into the water and see if you like symphonies, or if it's not something you can afford, this is a way you can do it through the library. So our next show is March 30th, and our tickets opened this past Monday. So we have 40 tickets. So if you're interested in going, you can sign up for it on our website or give us a call and we can help you out with it as well.
All right, Councilmember Kennedy.
I would like to say something very complimentary to the library when it comes to the extraordinary programs that you guys put on. It's absolutely fantastic. I think that's one of the strongest things we have with the ability to move forward to provide space for having that expanded and also additional space there. You know, statistics are great, but sometimes statistics are put out there and you can't really tie yourself to it personally. I want to share a personal situation within the Kennedy family. We have a 5-year-old granddaughter. Of course, you ask her and she's 5.5, but she's been prolific involved with the library since a baby. And they had a program in there that if you got through 1,000 books before you went to kindergarten, she successfully did that. She's now advanced further in her program. Almost the weekly is when are we going to the library? And what we've been able to do in our family is that what we kind of refer to as a 3-legged stool. And that is the involvement when it comes to her education from the parents, grandparents, and the library. Because the library becomes part of that third stool. And we realize that any third stool, if you lose one of those legs, you're going to fall over. So as much as her parents want her to succeed, we want her to succeed, but I realize because the programs of the library provide extra beyond the books, really has set her up for an advancement. She's now reading at an advanced first grade level. And what's interesting is she comes home from school and I say, well, how was school today? She got to the point to point out, oh, I was helping Mary with her reading. Now I sit there as a senior citizen and it almost brings me to tears when I look at a 5.5-year-old and who can make that statement. And I realize, where's that founded from? That's only founded from what she gets from her parents or the surroundings, but the programs she's involved with the library. So kudos.
That's wonderful. I don't know if any of you guys know this, but we have a whole wall as you're walking into the Storytime meeting room. We have a large bulletin board, and on it, it is full of bugs, little tiny bugs. And each of those bugs is a kid that has read one of their 100 books for kindergarten. So for each 100 books, they get one bug, and the thing is completely full, thousands of books that these kids have read getting ready for kindergarten. So it's a wonderful program.
All right, Councilmember Kurtz.
I feel like I should know this, but for your classes, like the Master Gardener classes, do you guys record those and post them?
We don't.
If not, could you? Because here's my thought. I would love to go to those, but sometimes with like kids and like their activities or city council or whatever, I don't get the chance to go to them. And I would love to be able to, on my own time, well, I guess it's my own time anyway, but like be able to watch it and see and learn as well in a different time than when you guys present it.
I think that's a good point, especially about the Master Gardener course series. I wonder if it's something we could do like with the OWL, like that's how I record the library board meetings.
Right.
And then just post them on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely bring that up to Michaela as an option for next year, because I think that's a good point, that the time and date might not work for some people,
Yeah,
but
you
we
just
might get some more
reach if people can look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great suggestion.
Thanks.
All right, anybody else? All right, thanks, you guys, appreciate it. All right, next up, Parks and Arts Commission.
Good evening, John Barr here for Parks and Arts. Just a real brief update for Archard Park. The pickleball box has been rewrapped, and on the screen there you see the old images and the new images. So a refresh was was good. Next slide, please. As for the Pavilion Park upgrade, we're seeking public engagement. There will be a meeting tomorrow with the CEC to create a roadmap for obtaining public input, and public input may include booths at local events, schools and daycare facilities, feedback from the kids, farmers market feedback, and town hall open house meetings. So we're seeking input on for the upgrade for Pavilion Park. And then next slide. And when it comes to the Meadowood Arboretum, the Lions Club plans to submit a donation paperwork for a kiosk in the Arboretum, and the commission supports the city council approval of that donation. And that kiosk looks pretty impressive. So, and then next is Rocky Hill, just moving right around. The Smarty board there, the new Smarty board is to be installed spring of this year. The recommended location is along the sidewalk outside of the play area. And next is the Story Walk, something relative to the library. New storybook walk books are rain themed. Rain by Cynthia Ryland and Zap Clap Boom by Laura Salas. And there's a new story walk installation plan for Country Vista Trail near the Diamonds in later this year. That's just a brief update of the Parks and Arts Commission meeting. Any questions?
Oh, you guys always have your hands full. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and next up, Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. Do we have anybody online? Nope. I know Ben reminded them on Monday, but we will continue to wait their arrival. All right, next up is our workshop on secondhand smoke. So I don't know who's, Mark, you kicking this off?
I'm going to kick it off. And as Evan is pulling up the short presentation that we've got, just to kind of run through an agenda from our perspective, we've got some what I'll call contextual information, and we've got a recommendation that we'll be leading to. And then we'll have an opportunity for the council to have a discussion. We've got Pete here, we've got other department heads here to answer any questions that council may want to get clarification on. But as we start the conversation, I just want to clarify, as we've been talking internally about how to approach this, this is not this is not an easy proposition to factor, because there is merit on both sides. And so our role is not to pick one side or the other. Our role is to make a recommendation based on the policy implications as we're looking at a proposal to change an ordinance, which in effect is city law. And so as we go through, we'll be leading up to that. And like I said, after that, we'll have plenty of time to address questions and talk in more detail about some things that the council wants to learn more about. So Evan, if you can go to the next slide, just as kind of level setting, when we're looking at cannabis laws, these are state laws. These are enshrined in state and RCW, and you can see the citations there. We're talking about Chapter 69, Sections 51A and 50, and they relate to recreational cannabis on the 6950 side. And so that law, that codified law, makes it legal to produce, possess, distribute, and use cannabis in the state of Washington. And that was put into effect roughly in 2012. If you go back to the late 90s, the medical cannabis law was put into effect, and that's codified in RCW 6951A, and it essentially makes it legal to possess and use cannabis for medical purposes in the state of Washington. And so from a legal perspective, that's kind of the baseline that we're talking about. And so if we want to go in and look at the specifics, Evan, if you could go to the next slide, that what is called the Smoking in Public Places Law. This is codified in RCW 7160. So the previous citation was it becoming legal to do these things. with respect to cannabis. The smoking in public places law covers smoking of any substance in public places. And so very simply, the law states, no person may smoke in a public place or in a place of employment, period. That's the statute. And then it goes further in other sections to kind of provide some additional clarity and context. And one of those is that in these public places or places of employment, it's also prohibited within 25 feet. And they've changed that a bit to make it, people are able to petition for less distance. And that's handled on a case-by-case basis. But generally speaking, the prohibition is 25 feet from entrances, exits, and you can see all of the qualifications there. And it's essentially to keep smoke out of the public place or the place of employment. There is no prohibition against smoking in private residences unless that private residence is used to provide licensed childcare, foster care, adult care, or other social services. And the rules for multifamily dwellings are set by the property owner. So there's no prohibition against smoking in multifamily residences unless the property owner sets a prohibition. If we go to the next slide, please, Evan. In the City of Liberty Lake Development Code, you see the citation there, 10-4I2, we have something called a home occupation permit. And essentially what this does is allows for someone to gain a permit to perform some kind of commercial activity in their home, in their residence. And you can see the purpose there. It's to facilitate small commercial ventures operated within a residence. Within that code section, there is a prohibition on some of those uses. And you can see there that one of those prohibitions is creating smoke or odor that can be detected beyond the property line. And so that is the home occupation permit. So from a commercial perspective in a residential property, you can see some precedent for addressing the smoke and odor beyond those allowable levels that is detected beyond the property line. That is currently in the Liberty Lake Development Code. Now, if we transition to the Liberty Lake Municipal Code, Evan, next slide, please. And we look at the Chronic Nuisance Properties Ordinance, which is in Municipal Code Title 6, Chapter 7. And that's what is being proposed for amendment. That is what the document in the packet, the red line version of that document, is proposing to amend. And so this is a fairly meaty ordinance. And so some of these things are paraphrased, but to hopefully give you the gist of what this ordinance does, you can see there the purpose statement. This ordinance essentially is mitigating nuisance properties that present grave health, safety, and welfare concerns, which the property owners or persons in charge of such properties have failed to take corrective action to abate. Chronic nuisance properties have a tremendous negative impact upon the quality of life, safety, and health of the neighborhoods where they are located. And it goes on to list specific behaviors, and it explicitly calls out criminal conduct. And it lists these 17 things that you can see. These are serious crimes. All of these crimes are they carry misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor, or felony penalties. And so from a chronic nuisance property standpoint, from the legal standpoint in city ordinance, these are the things that are currently used to make a case for a property to become a chronic nuisance when these activities are taking place. And so, Evan, if you can go to the next slide. From a procedural standpoint, if we go to section 6-7-5, this is in the same code, in the municipal code. This is the enforcement section. Again, this is a meaty, wordy code. And so I'm trying to give you the highlights here. And I'll tell you in a minute why I'm pointing this out. So it goes from the very beginning of a notice of possible nuisance. So for example, if we have gang-related activity at a property, somebody makes a complaint, the police department investigates and cites for that activity. Our code says if 3 of those citations are offered in 60 days, there is a case to be made for this property to be classified as a chronic nuisance. And when that becomes the case, there is a notice issued of that. And then it goes through these code provisions of progressive activity. There's some legal stuff, some more legal stuff, fines. And then the court could declare that the property is nuisance, close it and secure it, meaning the court now has control of that property and ultimately a lien can be filed. And so from a legal perspective, that we're dealing with the chronic nuisance properties ordinance, the proposal to change that to add the language that you've seen. And so one of the other things that I want to just mention as we go forward and look at the recommendation before we open the floor for more discussion is that, Evan, if you can go to the next slide, and this is just a placeholder. Generally speaking, over the course of looking back over the tenure of Chief Simmons's role as chief, there have been generally 0 secondhand smoke complaints generated. On the home occupancy permit or home occupation permit that I showed you information on from the development code, in the tenure that Lisa has been here as director, which has been over 7 years, there have been 0 complaints of that smoke or odor generated moving across a property line. And then when you look at some other documentation, I'm thinking of the 2025 Community Satisfaction Survey, the 2024 Community Satisfaction Survey, and the strategic plan survey that we did when we were developing the plan. There are thousands of artifacts, pieces of input that have come into us where people are answering questions like, what is the single biggest negative impact on your quality of life? And what do you think the council should be focused on in the next 12 months? Those kinds of questions with thousands of responses, and none of those have mentioned secondhand smoke. And so just some context for that. And so moving on to the recommendation, Evan, if you could go to the next slide. And this recommendation is based exclusively on the fact that we are proposing, or it is being proposed, that we take the nuisance property ordinance, which is made up of hardcore crimes, and we're proposing to add something that is legal into that list that could potentially lead to someone losing their home. And so as a result of that, the city's recommendation is not amending Title VII, Chapter 6 of the municipal code as proposed, and further recommends pursuing non-punitive remedies to resolve the immediate dispute. And so with that, we will turn the floor over for council discussion, questions. Like I said, we've got chief and deputy chief here. Lisa is on the line if there are any questions about the home occupation permit or anything else. And so with that, I will turn the floor over to council.
Councilmember Dunn and then Councilmember Spencer.
Hey, I'm grateful for the recount, Mark. It actually is helpful for me in recounting the origin of that nuisance property ordinance. And specifically, it was modeled on ordinances adopted in large, I'm going to call it decaying metros, Detroit, in which there were whole blocks and sections and neighborhoods in which there were buildings that honestly were hives, and I'd say places where just nothing good was happening. We had, yes, in matter of fact, yes, here in Liberty Lake, specifically a house, I'm going to say, that our police department was visiting regularly. And we looked at each other in search of an ordinance, an action which could be taken to provide some remedy to the neighbors in that neighborhood. So yeah, I recognize the creation of the nuisance property ordinance specifically with the ability for the city to evict from the property. That is an end point and an end run when you encounter those situations. So I really appreciate the recognition of municipal code as delivering specifically an incredibly impactful outcome to a property owner if it were come to it. And yeah, I guess I'm concerned as well about adding what is inherently a legal activity in amongst what are inherently illegal activity in the nature of that municipal code.
Okay, thanks. Councilmember Spencer.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I had a couple thoughts as I've listened to the presentation by Mark, and just as I've reviewed a bunch of the information here. If we go back to the RCW 70.160, The findings at the beginning, the intent of the law for secondhand smoking in public places. It says the people of the state of Washington recognize that exposure to secondhand smoke is known to cause cancer in humans. Secondhand smoke is a known cause of other diseases, including pneumonia, asthma, bronchitis, and heart disease. Citizens are often exposed to secondhand smoke in the workplace and are likely to develop chronic, potentially fatal diseases as a result of such exposure. In order to protect the health and welfare of all citizens, including workers in their places of employment, it is necessary to prohibit smoking in public places and workplaces. We already saw in the presentation regarding, the protections essentially that workers have in their places of employment. And then it goes on to list an extensive list of what public places might include. But then it goes on to finish that paragraph that a public place does not include a private residence. I think the intent and whether the idea is to submit it or insert this within the nuisance portion of this ordinance or somewhere else within our code, I think the intent is good. If the state of Washington and the citizens here have recognized the fact that secondhand smoke can cause cancer and other diseases, the idea that we can, somehow create this imaginary line between workplaces and where we live, I would submit regarding the comment, the fact that, we've received virtually 0 requests. Well, then we're really going to receive virtually 0 additional requests, except for the ones that are a problem, right? So if we had a nuisance property, we've only got one that I'm aware of as I've been on council. The likelihood of this becoming a major issue seems very slim. Again, whether this is put into this particular ordinance or not, there was mention of all of these different activities being listed as very severe. I mean, one of them is noise. If I don't know to what extent the noise has to become a problem, but I think at the end of the day, the idea or the intent of this change is really to make sure that we're all here living together, some in very close proximity, and that we can all enjoy, our homes and our dwellings without being exposed to something that can cause cancer or some other disease unnecessarily. So I think as we discuss this, I think we need to keep in mind that even if secondhand smoke or a situation like this gets added as one of the potential behaviors or activities within this code, it's probably going to be few and far between. We've heard from citizens on both sides of this topic, and knowing that most people are probably going to be reasonable. When we moved into our home over in the River District, our next door neighbor routinely smoked marijuana right on their porch, which was right below our deck. And my wife constantly had to close the doors and windows because she didn't want our home to smell like marijuana. So, further on in that relationship, I think, if I had approached the neighbor, we had an amicable relationship. But I know that this particular situation that has driven this whole issue has been because there's a particular individual who is not willing to change his behavior and be a good neighbor. So those are some of the things I'd like to kind of keep in mind as we discuss this. So whether the wording that's been submitted and the particular portion of our code needs to be changed, or if it needs to be inserted somewhere else, I would be interested in hearing a little bit more about the non-punitive remedies, what those might be, because ultimately I think we need to provide the ability for citizens who are in a situation that they've attempted to remedy on their own, but they're unable to do so because there is no law or code that is backing them. Thank you.
Okay, we had two. Councilmember Ball and then Kurtz.
So, I've had a lot of problems with this, because nuisance property, of course, you listed all those items, but, you know, to me, a nuisance property is broken down cars in the front, hoarding, refrigerators in the front yard being used as meat smokers. I've seen those when I lived in Alaska. So it becomes a slippery slope to, you know, what is one considered to be a nuisance? And some of the red lines in this ordinance mention soot and fumes coming from barbecues and meat smokers. It doesn't count, but, or that those kind of items don't count, but they also produce soot and fumes. And it's also, you know, being neighborly. Again, what is a nuisance? I had some neighbors, they have since moved, that didn't like children, period. And they considered another neighbor's kids to be just little demons because they played in a common area. It got to the point where police came out on a regular basis. Children playing are not a nuisance. It's just too hard to define what is a nuisance. Everybody lives differently. And the other thing, we don't know anything about the gentleman that caused a person to want to bring this up. For example, is he a medical user? As one of our citizens mentioned, being a medical user, there are many benefits of cannabis, including for PTSD. In fact, I have some information about veterans with PTSD. There's 22 suicides a month, and a group is called 22 Too Many to address that. And they have helped these veterans with PTSD with the use of cannabis. This organization started in about 2016, and now 23 states, it's legal, or excuse me, it's a qualifying condition for veterans to get cannabis for PTSD. Also, it helps with glaucoma, cancer for people going through chemotherapy. I myself had cancer in 2011 and used cannabis for the nausea because the anti-nausea pills made me dizzy. Opioid addiction can be treated with cannabis. There's a lot of uses. So we don't know what this fellow's situation is, and we will never know probably, but that's something to think about. The other thing that disturbs me is, who's going to enforce this? Are we going to have a special little group that goes out and monitors smoke? Who's going to pay for that? Taxpayers. I don't want to pay for that. I think it'd be better to use our tax money for roads. So, and the last thing, the closure business, 6-7-5 paragraph E, closure, close the property. You're talking about someone's house. We're going to drive this guy out of his house, close his house because he smokes cannabis for reasons we don't know. He could be a vet with PTSD. So that's just how I feel about it. I think it's, I just think it's a slippery slope. Thank you.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Well, I have two questions for two different groups. Chief, can I ask you a question? Kind of two different tracks here, but one of them, when you talked earlier in your presentation earlier tonight, you talked about proactive and reactive enforcement. And I was wondering about this situation, since we've had 0 complaints to the police station. With the current law as it is now, what would you do now if you got a complaint? What would that look like?
Well, one of the things that DC Morgan and I, we did over the last couple of weeks is we did some consulting with the prosecutor's office, number one, and consulted with our county prosecutor, the prosecutor, and also, so both sides, checking both sides, criminal and civil. And we were informed that that it's their opinion that this is not enforceable, and that their office, they won't touch it if anything comes through their office. That's the first thing. Second thing in that research is understanding some recent court cases, most of them criminal, most of them having to do with some more serious crimes, but how the courts are looking at the Fourth Amendment issues regarding curtilage, people's right to privacy in their backyard specifically. And there's been some recent court cases where the courts have been really clear on the right to privacy in your backyard in some really serious criminal cases. One of them out of Florida being a shooting. And so just looking at how the courts are looking at, you know, Fourth Amendment issues when it comes to private property, specifically backyards, and the word from my own prosecutor regarding the enforceability of something like this and their opinion and whether or not their office would even address it. And that would, from the prosecutor, that would be a no. They wouldn't touch this because they feel that it's not enforceable. So specifically speaking of our department, I have an issue putting our city in a position where we violate someone's constitutional rights, citing for something that the state law said is legal.
Okay. So right now, it's not enforceable. If the changes that were recommended in here were put in, is there any?
If it's a city ordinance, of course, we would enforce it. It's a city ordinance, but just the caution of, I mean, we can write it all day long. Whether or not the prosecutor's office is going to touch it or not is a different issue. We have serious crimes right now that we've been waiting to see action on for years. And we're talking felonies, crimes against persons, that are still sitting in the queue waiting for the prosecutor's office to either prosecute or, you know, resolve in some manner. And so I understand where the prosecutor's coming with this, or the way that they're looking at this, the prosecutor's office. But again, I think they're looking at some other issues too. Like I said, those Fourth Amendment issues. I mean, people should feel secure in their persons and property. I mean, that's what the Fourth Amendment is about. And so with those potential issues, I can see where there's some hesitancy to even, and again, they looked at this from both the civil and criminal side.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't want to put words in, but if someone called today, if there was a person smoking something in their backyard today and a call was made, what would be the response?
It's legal in their backyard. We probably wouldn't even respond. You know, we try not to get involved in civil issues, and that's a civil issue that's, you know, two adults finding some kind of way to mediate. And so we try not to get involved in those, because one of the things we don't want to do is get involved in a civil issue, something that's legal, that's not against the law by ordinance, it's not against the law by state law, and get into a physical confrontation, and worst case scenario, there's a deadly force situation because we're knocking on someone's door telling them that they can't do something, or your neighbor doesn't appreciate you doing something that's completely legal. You have a right to do it in your backyard, and that puts the PD in a really bad situation.
And then juxtapose that same situation, somebody smoking something, neighbor reports it, but they're in their front yard today.
The front yard is against the law. The law says you can't do that in public. You can't do that in the view of public. So that's a little bit different. Front yard, garage door open, anything that's on the front porch, that's against the law. You can't do that.
Hold on, just let me check the and there's nobody else before we go back for seconds. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Chief, I might come back to you in a couple of minutes. I have a couple of questions. One, I'm hoping we can put the graphic back up on, I think it was like your fourth slide, Mark, that had the list of all the things.
Yes.
And Councilmember Spencer kind of hit on this, but when I saw that list, you know, I understood the statement that most of those things were criminal activities, with the exception, thank you, with the exception of the noise piece. And so I guess my question is, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'd like to see what everybody's thought is why do we list noise as a chronic nuisance?
Well, we do have a noise ordinance.
But why, I mean, whether it be on here or the noise ordinance, why do we target noise as a nuisance?
So if Lisa is still on, Lisa, do you want to address that question. And then Sean, if you've got anything to add to that, I'd love to hear that as well.
Yes, so why do we address noise? Because above a certain decibel level, it can actually damage human hearing, etc. But again, it's about quality of life. It's about allowing people to enjoy the sanctity of their own home.
Okay, thank you.
If I may say just one other thing, that when we deal with noise as a nuisance, we are looking at the way it's typically handled is the decibel level at the property boundary.
Right, okay. I appreciate that. The reason why I asked that question is, couldn't we make the same argument in this case? I mean, couldn't we say that this is a quality of life issue? This is a ability for you to enjoy the sanctity of your backyard? It seems to me you could make that argument. When I first heard of this ordinance, I, like other council members, was trying to figure out how it could possibly be enforceable. And I still don't have the answer to that question. But it seems to me if we're going to say, on the one hand, we're going to treat noise as a potential nuisance because it could impact the ability of your neighbors to enjoy their life and their home, what else could we add to that list? I mean, that's a long list of things we could add. We could add dogs barking. We could add all sorts of different things. I know the HOAs specifically prohibit motorhomes and boats and all sorts of different items on there where you'll get a notification from the HOA. So, you know, I don't necessarily favor putting it in to the city law as one of the items under the chronic nuisance ordinance, but I do wonder out loud whether we should have a separate ordinance that perhaps does not go to the extent of the chronic nuisance ordinance, where, you know, there's a lien on the property and it could go to court, it could be shut down. To me, I kind of thought back to what we do when somebody has a basketball hoop out in the street. You know, we send out an enforcement person if there's a complaint, and you know, hopefully it's a friendly situation, and that's the end of it. So I guess my position would be that we don't necessarily put it in under the chronic nuisance ordinance, but perhaps we have a separate ordinance that just deals with for lack of a better term, the quality of life issues that this could fall under. So those are my thoughts.
Before we go,
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead,
Wait,
Chief.
can I address that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Can you go back to that list of crimes, please? I just want to clarify something about that list of crimes. So when you look at these crimes, we're talking about, I'll use assault as an example. You're looking at the severity of these crimes. We have residences here with normal people, normal everyday working people that have relationship issues. And several of these, I'm going to say several, there's a plethora of residences in Liberty Lake where either the husband or wife has been arrested for DV assault, 4th degree, at least 3 or 4 times. That doesn't qualify as a chronic nuisance property. We're talking about gang activity coupled with the assault. So drive-by shootings, 2nd degree assaults, assaults with weapons, same thing about drug-related activity. We have people here that we contacted their house and they're opioid users. I mean, we've been to houses where we've given Narcan several times because someone's a drug user. It doesn't affect their neighbors. Their neighbors may not even know that's not a chronic nuisance property just because someone has a substance abuse issue at that house. We're looking at the severity of the crime coupled with the number of times that we're responding there that makes that residence a extreme hazard to the community. And so that's the way we look at this, not just, hey, we've been there 3 times. It's, they've been playing their noise. Somebody can hear the boom, 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 from their techno music 3 times, across the street. That's not what that's about. These are, the noise of the fight, or they had a party there and the party got out of hand because it's a gang related party. And then there were shots fired. I mean, these are things that we have to, the totality of the circumstances, we have to look at all of that put together to say, yes, we have enough to remove someone from that property, because that's a serious thing to do. And so again, it's not just an assault. It's not just noise. It is the severity of that coupled with any other activity at that property. And I can tell you right now, from my time at the sheriff's office and my time here, we don't kick people out of houses. A place is generally not labeled a chronic nuisance property just for one specific criminal violation. It is, again, a totality of consistent issues, violence, fights, major assaults, felony assaults, weapon offenses, gang-related issues, which is often coupled with prostitution and human trafficking. And I mean, all these things that you look into and you can say, yeah, we have an issue here. So that's how we determine that. Again, not just based on, oh yeah, it fits into this assault category. So like I said before, I mean, we would have 1,000 nuisance properties in Liberty Lake if we looked at it that way, because everyday people have everyday issues and sometimes solve those the wrong way. So.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Chris, I think one of the things to keep in mind, and I'll admit I haven't looked up specifically, but nothing comes to mind of a statute that says I can play my music loud, or I can have loud parties at my house. A statute says you can have marijuana in your residence, as long as it's not foster care, child care, whatever. So there's a distinction there between what is permitted by the state versus playing loud music. And the intent behind the whole statutory scheme when it was, or the code, when it was put together, as Dan had alluded to, was to try to address habitual offenders and multiple things that are going on that rise to the level, as the chief had said. So things that are repeating themselves over and over, there wasn't a mechanism in which way to address that. And so the code was passed to address those issues when they arose. And if they were not able to be addressed in a initial enforcement vehicle, through letters, through communications, then there's a vehicle, as Mark so eloquently put, legal and more legal stuff to address those moving forward. But to get to that point, there are many steps that happen before you even get there. So I agree with you. I'm not sure this is the right vehicle, if that's what the council wants to do, to put it, because I don't think that's the intent behind this particular code section and what was the basis for putting it in place to begin with.
Right. Real quick, Councilmember Kennedy, you're the only one we haven't heard through on this first round. Good. Okay, so let's go around. I think Councilmember Spencer was first on the second round, and then we'll do Councilmember Kurtz.
Thank you. And again, I'll say, I don't know for sure whether this is something that belongs in here, but as we have been discussing this, I feel like if we were to ask the individuals in this particular neighborhood if they would consider this a chronic nuisance, I think the answer is going to be yes. I've talked to several of them. It's not something where, one time this kid came out and he's smoking marijuana and he said, hey, can you please stop? And he's like, oh, sorry. We heard from a citizen tonight that said that they use marijuana for medicinal purposes, but that she's also talked to the neighbors around her, and if they had said that it bothered them, that she would figure out a way to work around that. So again, I think we go back to this idea that no, we're not labeling every house that has any one of these crimes taking place in their homes as a chronic nuisance property. I think what we're really looking at, the intent of this part of the code is a chronic habitual problem. And so, whether that rises to the level of, them losing their home over it, I mean, that is a bizarre thing to consider. But this individual and other individuals that may be in the situation in the future, it is within their control. If this were part of the code, it is within their control to change their behavior. And I think really that's the intent of what we're looking at here is when a citizen isn't willing to participate in society like the rest of us are, that there needs to be some recourse. Sean just alluded to the fact that, in that process that was laid out up on the screen, it doesn't start with, hey, you're going to stop smoking or you're going to lose your home. It is, here are some things, a path we have to go down, and hopefully at some point along the way, a homeowner or an individual who is behaving in this way stops and says, this is going to get more serious, so perhaps I need to change my behavior. I don't know much about marijuana myself, whether it has to be smoked in order to get the medicinal benefits. My understanding is that it probably does not need to be, because it sounds like it comes in many different forms. So the idea that one has to smoke it right next to somebody's home seems a little unreasonable to me. So, again, I've experienced this myself. I'm sure there's others in our community that it hasn't risen to the level of, darn it, I'm going to go appeal to the government. The reason why this has is because the individual right next door to this home has a chronic health condition that is being agitated as a result. And so he and his neighbors are coming to the government for redress. And what is our job as lawmakers? Where I would hope it's to figure out a way that we can provide redress for our citizens.
Back to Councilmember Kurtz.
So I've kind of gone like all over the place with listening to everybody. We had the citizen comments earlier, we had the written citizen comments, and we've just heard a lot tonight. The things that are standing out to me, the chief said that this is a civil issue versus a criminal issue, the way things are set up now, and that even if they were to respond, it's legal. And if we were to put in something like this into law, you go through the enforcement process, but there wouldn't be anything that happens because the courts aren't going to do anything with it. And even if they did, it doesn't sound like the courts are going to do anything with it. Even if the police did the work necessary to do the enforcement part. I'm hearing city staff recommend not amending the ordinance. I'm hearing the chief in not as many, more words than that, saying to not go forward with that because of Fourth Amendment issues. And one of the things that on the last slide that Mark had up talked about non-punitive remedies. And I feel like that probably would be a more appropriate place to have a little bit more discussion about, given that currently it is a civil situation. What I worry about is that we've had 0 complaints so far. Even though it's been an issue, there have been 0 complaints to the city. And even though it sounds like it's, there are a number of people affected, it sounds like it's one citizen that is causing this trouble. And I have real angst when I think about that, of putting in a law because of one situation in the whole city. That doesn't mean that it's not happening elsewhere, but we aren't hearing about that. So to put in a law for one situation is hard for me. And listening to Councilmember Spencer, I think that hearing that the citizens were trying to affect change and coming to their government for that, I guess one of the questions I have maybe related to non-punitive remedies and it being a civil situation is whether the community, the HOA, needs to be able to step in and do something here. All the HOAs have restrictions on noise and a lot of other things. And when one of the first slides was up regarding multifamily type situations, I don't know if that would apply here, but I feel like we may be overstepping and causing some more trouble for ourselves by putting in a restriction on something that is legally allowed in the state. So those are just some of my thoughts listening to everybody. I didn't come in here with a dog in the fight or a real perspective. I was just here to listen tonight. So I'm curious about the non-punitive remedies, if there are any suggestions for that. And then whether anybody has any thoughts on whether perhaps the HOA should be involved and looking at this instead of us.
Great. Anybody else on the second round? Mayor Pro Tem.
I do think it's kind of ironic that we do have chapters in our city code that talk about the inhaling of toxic fumes and causing someone else to inhale certain types of fumes that could cause them to be, quote, euphoric, dizzy, excitement, irrational behavior, exhilaration, paralysis, stupefaction, or dulling of the senses of the nervous system. That is referring to RCW, which we refer to in section 6-1-39 of our code. I'm not here to argue whether marijuana does that or not. I'm just, as I've gone through the city code, I do think that that's an interesting piece that we haven't really talked much about. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilmember Ball.
I just want to say, I think that all this just boils down to everyone being tolerant to a degree, not to excess, of their neighbors. I mean, everybody's different. There was a big party at the end of a cul-de-sac near my house a few weeks ago, maybe it was a week ago, and it was loud, but it ended about 10. I'm not going to go down there and make a fuss. I just think people just need to realize everybody's got their own lives, their own health issues, their own beliefs, and everybody just be good neighbors and get out of everybody else's business. That's all.
Anybody else? Well, it sounds to me like more discussion needs to be had, more information on the non-punitive options for this. Like Annie, I was here to listen tonight as well. Obviously, I won't vote on this, even if there's a tie. It would be an ordinance if this is it. But I think unfortunately, not everybody's a good neighbor. I wish they all were. I've had my own run-ins with neighbors in the past as well. And but how do you legislate that? I would hope that people would be human and, have a good, be a good neighbor and listen to, a neighbor who is having an issue and find another way. Unfortunately, not everybody does. So how do we address that as a community, without going so far as, taking somebody's home? So I too would like to hear some more on what the non-criminal, possibilities would be. Go ahead, Councilmember Spencer.
Yeah, so on that topic, so Mark, did you come prepared to discuss some of those options, or is that a discussion for another day as far as the non-punitive?
It depends on how specific you want to get. I mean, our recommendation at this point would be to work with the HOAs, as Councilmember Kurtz pointed out. That is the logical first place to start, because this in fact is a civil dispute. It's a neighbor-to-neighbor dispute. And so that would be the first logical place to start.
Okay, so to dovetail off that, I happen to know that these individuals have approached the HOA. I'm in the same HOA, and they've, from the conversations I've had with the individuals in this neighborhood, they're going every route. They're going to HOA. They're going to their state representatives. They're going to their local representatives. They're going to law enforcement. So to state that our PD has received 0 complaints is inaccurate. Obviously, they've received multiple complaints from at least one individual in this neighborhood. And they've been called out to go and address certain situations in which this individual was out in front of their house or in their garage with the door open. I guess what I want to say regarding this idea that, it's currently legal. When we look at, at some point, somebody or a group of individuals in the state of Washington said, darn it, I work at a bowling alley and I don't want to have secondhand smoke anymore. At some point, somebody said that. At some point, it was legal to do that. It was legal to smoke everywhere. I grew up, I've seen it both sides. I grew up with ashtrays in the cars, with my friends' parents smoking in their homes and smoking in their cars. There was smoking at every outdoor event that you could possibly think of. We don't have to endure that anymore. So what I'm trying to say is at some point, somebody has to stand up and say, whether it's at the local level or it's at the state level, here's our stance on this issue. And again, it goes back to if we're not getting complaints every day about this, that doesn't mean we shouldn't do anything about it. It just means for those extreme cases, those individuals have some sort of recourse. So I think the idea to state that, I think the other possibility is that some are thinking that if we were to put something in our municipal code, in our law that says, you can't be chronically, smoking in your backyard because it's going to cause your friends and neighbors issues. It works the other way around. It's going to be a self-reporting type of thing, right? It's not that we're going to be hiring staff to go and drive around the neighborhoods to look for smoke, puffs of smoke coming up behind homes. That's nonsensical. Okay, this is going to be a self-reporting thing. I think we all have a pretty good idea of why this whole issue has come about. It's not because people can't figure out how to be friendly, because I've talked to this individual many times and he's approached it every which way. So it's not a situation where, well, gosh, let's all get along, because as the mayor said, that's not going to be reality in some cases. And what I'm trying to hopefully convey is that if any of us were in a similar situation, whether it's, smoke or something else that literally causes a health issue that you can't leave your home because individuals on either side of you are engaging in some sort of behavior that causes you not to be able to leave your home. I can sympathize with that. So that's all I'm saying. And again, whether that needs to go in the chronic nuisance or whether that needs to be a separate ordinance of some sort, that there are lesser penalties, but I think there needs to be some sort of recourse that a citizen has when they find themselves in the situation, because we're not always going to find ourselves in a amicable relationship with our neighbors. We'd like to think that we're going to do that, but that's not always going to be the case.
Councilmember Kurtz.
I think what I worry about is whether we put something in this or do something different, what the effectiveness of it is going to be and whether it has the desired effect. I assume the desired effect is you want someone to stop smoking marijuana, which is a right they have in the state of Washington. And so and if the courts aren't going to do anything with it, I worry that we're going to put in an ordinance and still nothing is going to change. And so I'm wondering if there's a different way besides the idea of an ordinance, because the idea is you want something to change. So what else could we do that might actually affect change? If we're hearing that the court system is probably not going to be supportive and nothing's going to happen. So I don't want to put in a law that's going to be ineffective, I guess is my point.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I was just gonna say in response, I don't think the point here is to say to someone you can't smoke marijuana. I think the issue is when it becomes a nuisance to your neighbor. I mean, if somebody wants to smoke marijuana in their house, whatever, it's not my cup of tea, but that's their decision. But if they're sitting, I play basketball in the backyard with my son, and I could envision a scenario where, my neighbors go out there and, smoke marijuana every night. And as a result, I can't play basketball with my son because we don't want to be out there in that. So again, I don't have the answer to this. I don't know what the good answer is, but I do think that there's a point on both sides of this. Because on the one hand, you should have the right to do what you want to do in your backyard and out of public view. But on the other hand, as we've seen with some of the other things that we say we want to or have regulated in the city before, I should have a right as a homeowner in the city to be able to enjoy my backyard. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer to this is. I keep going back and forth on it.
Mark, thoughts?
Can I ask one follow-up question? Mark, would it be possible to bring us back something that would be more civil in terms of enforcement and maybe I'm not explaining this correctly. Instead of putting it into the criminal code, is there something that we could consider or at least talk about that wouldn't take that step, that would make it more of a, hey, let's send out a code enforcement officer. Let's, try to call attention to it that way.
We can bring back anything that you would like to see and consider. And I would ask, are you open to also considering incentivizing not doing the behavior versus punishing the behavior? Do you want us to consider bringing back some options about incentivizing the not doing of the behavior?
You read my mind.
What does that
Okay.
mean?
Yeah. What would that look
How would,
like?
It could look like a lot of stuff. I don't have an answer for you right now. But there are a lot of programs whereby you affect a behavioral change by incentivizing positive versus punishing negative.
Councilmember Ball?
So with regard to what Councilman Cargill just said, Mayor Pro Tem Cargill, about sending out the code enforcement or whatever, again, it's money. Why would we spend money on this? The code enforcement officer, or is that what you call them?
Yes.
It should be out looking at bigger things like
basketball hoops.
Sure.
But that's
I
law.
mean, but have you noticed, you and I live in the same neighborhood, they're off the street. So, it's not a big deal anymore, but I've talked about this in the past, the sidewalks, in front of people's houses, they're responsible for them, unfortunately, but that are like this and, you're going to drop off a little cliff if you're walking or, grandma's in a wheelchair and, like I said before, gets knocked out because they go over a bump. Those are more important things for code enforcement individuals to be working on. So.
Councilmember Kurtz?
If code enforcement was gonna go out, there'd have to be something in code for them to enforce. We'd have to do something, right? Okay. So I am curious about what positive incentives are, because I have like ideas in my head and I'm sure they are not what you're suggesting. But I would like to hear more. But I also would like to hear what work you're doing with the HOA, what the response has been now that potentially the city is involved in that, if that has any change effect for that. So I think those are the two things I'd be interested in hearing more about at the next meeting.
Okay.
Well, I can, go ahead.
May I make a recommendation if you're going to look at any enforcement action is maybe potentially, and we'll have to do our homework on it, but look at it as making it a civil infraction.
Yeah.
Those go through the courts completely different. They don't have to go through the prosecutor's office. I mean, it's a traffic ticket.
It sounds like that's kind of what people are thinking, if I'm hearing people right. And at code enforcement, that we are doing some proactive work on the things, that are more obvious, like you mentioned, sidewalks and signage and things like that. But code enforcement is also very complaint driven as well. Okay, so pull some more information together and do a follow-up.
Yeah, we can do that. I would hesitate to put something date certain on the calendar. Let us dig in and kind of come back and make a recommendation for a date so that we can know what we're dealing with in terms of research that needs to be done.
Yeah, I know dealing with the HOAs will be interesting because I'm in the Meadowwood HOA and getting anything new voted on or changed is basically impossible. So, and I hate to say that, I wish it was different, but for a large HOA like that, getting enough people to come out and make a change like that to vote on it is difficult. All right, we will follow up. Thanks, everybody. All right, general business.
Sorry, I'm still thinking about the last item. Sorry, give me 1 second here. Computer
ABC.
turned off. I've got it right here. It just
Okay.
came up. Mayor will make a motion to approve general business items 10A, B, C, and D.
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Spencer. Those in favor of approving consent agenda items A, B, C, and D, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0.
Moving on to general business item 11A, make a motion to approve the appointment of Barb Richardson to the position position 2 on the Board of Trustees for the library.
We have a second, then we can hear from Barb. She's here. Second. Do we have a second from Councilmember Kurtz? All right, would you have a minute to join us up here, Barb, and tell us a little bit about yourself? We've got your application, but it's always good to hear from the applicant, and I'm sure the council might have some questions for you.
Yes, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here and listen to your deliberations. I've been in similar situations and it's never easy. I'm Barb Richardson. I moved to the Spokane area. I was born and raised in Pendleton, Oregon. I've been to a number of colleges and universities with nursing degrees from the University of Colorado, University of Washington, and I was the first person to graduate with a PhD in nursing from Washington State University here in Spokane. Anyway, moved to Spokane area 42 years ago, was very active in the Spokane community while my children were growing, and served on a number of nonprofit boards. The YWCA was one of my favorites. I ran for school board and served for 6 years on the Spokane Public Schools Board of Directors, including a couple of terms as president. I then went back to, I was so impressed with the people that I worked with that they would work all day and at night and weekends, go back to school to get their advanced degrees. I was like, wow, I could maybe do that too. So that's what prompted me late in life to go back to school. I then, I guess, went back to work full-time after my, I have 2 daughters. One lives in Boise and one lives in Australia. Anyway, I grew up in a family where service to the community was something that was expected. I saw that in role models in my parents and my grandparents. And so I was active in the Spokane community. We moved to Liberty Lake 16 years ago, but I lived just outside the city limits, just. Anyway, but I was in school, then I was hired by Washington State University as the Director of Interprofessional Education. So my expertise is really in teams. How do you get teams to work well together? Healthcare teams in particular. I was the only nurse hired initially to start the Washington State University College of Medicine. So I did that, retired, mostly retired, not quite fully, but mostly retired in 2021. But this past fall, we moved inside the city limits. So I started looking for opportunities how I could engage and be a more fully active member of the Liberty Lake community. There was a position open on the Library Board of Trustees, which aligns very closely with my personal values. And so I applied. I had a nice meeting with the mayor and Jandy, the director of the library. So do you have any questions for me?
None? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, Barb, thanks for applying. Appreciate it. Just a quick question for you on what you view as the role of the board and how you envision us working together with the council and the board as well in the future.
Sure. I thought you were going to ask if I shop at Yokes or Safeway. No, not really. The role of any board is to set policy. And sometimes there seems like a fine line between policy and enacting that. But the role of the board really is to set policy, make sure that you have the resources in place to enable those policies to be successful. Whether that means a hiring process, working to, I know that in Liberty Lake in particular, there's been a great deal of talk about needing a new library facility that's bigger and can provide the space that people need for additional programming. Anyway, I understand the difference between levies and bonds and know that to maybe put together a new plan. So I reviewed the plan, the 2019 plan, but to put together a new plan whereby, you know, you may need to go to the citizens for additional funding, that would require a bond. And I've, again, in various nonprofit organizations, been involved in how do you communicate with citizens in a way which everyone feels engaged, that their voices are being heard. So if at some point you decide to put forth a bond, I would say that one of the roles of library trustees is to be active in the community, to communicate with citizens about why it would be really important to pass a bond that would provide the facilities so that we could have the programs that we need. I don't know, I could go on and on, but it's already a late meeting, but
Thank you.
does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Other questions?
Anybody else? Councilmember Kennedy, then
Oh, okay.
Councilmember Kurtz. Oh, Councilmember Kurtz, go ahead.
So as a member of an advisory board to the city council, the city council sets and adopts policy recommendations from our volunteer boards. How would you balance that understanding with prior understanding that you have from different boards that you've been on?
I think it's important to know the structure. So obviously, serving as a board member for Spokane Public Schools, that structure is really very different than serving on the Board of Leadership Spokane, which I did for a long time as well. They're two different types of organizations. So I think understanding how the board, the trustee library board serves in a role appointed by the mayor and city council, and as more in an advisory capacity, then actually being able to set forth, like on the school board, set forth policy around budget and all those kinds of important decisions.
Thank you. Councilmember Kennedy, you're next.
Councilman Kurtz
Took
asked
your
my
question. Okay. All right. Sorry.
well done.
All right. Any others? Councilmember Dunn.
Ms. Richardson, I just want to say thank you for your, thank you for participating, being a volunteer in our community, and I specifically appreciate your experience in education. I think it's a great compliment to our board, and I look forward to your participation.
Thank you.
Okay. There's no other questions. We'll go ahead and go to a vote. Those in favor of confirming the appointment of Barb Richardson to position 2 on the Library Board of Trustees, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. Welcome.
Thank you. It'll be an honor to work with you.
Thank you. All right. Next up.
Sorry, my computer keeps going to screensaver. Mayor, I'll make a motion to appoint Rochelle Catton to the city clerk position, actually confirm the appointment of Rochelle Catton to the city clerk position.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Kennedy. We'll
Yeah, Mayor, Council, thanks again.
Your introduction.
I did want to step in and set the record straight. I apologize for my tentative way I said Caton earlier. It's Rochelle Caton. So I do apologize, Rochelle. We'll get that squared away. But Rochelle comes to us from the west side. She recently relocated with her family to Spokane. I believe her husband was recently hired on with the Spokane County Sheriff's Department. She comes to us from Des Moines on the west side, which is a city roughly 2.5 times the size of Liberty Lake. So she's very familiar with the inner workings of the administrative role in government. She held various roles, professional level administrative roles with the city of Des Moines for, I believe, 5+ years. And Mayor, Council, I'll hand it over to Rochelle.
Welcome. And take a couple minutes to tell about yourself and why you were interested in the position.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate city leadership who I interviewed with and the confidence to be before you this evening. Like it was said, we're new to this area, my family and I. I'm certainly not new to city government. I love city government. I love the inner workings. Some people think that's funny, but it's just very true. We moved here because we love this area. And when this job posting came up, I was very excited. One, because the values of the city very much align with our family. Civic pride, as mentioned, my husband is a deputy. So we love it here, and that's why we're here. Also reading the job posting, many, if not all of the descriptions and the requirements I have done before. And so I absolutely feel like it can hit the ground running and jump right in. That said, I know that those are very big shoes to fill Kelsey's role. So I am so excited that if appointed, I will be able to spend a little bit of time with her, getting in the groove and job shadowing and learning all the things.
Well, and Kelsey
Thank you.
gave her stamp of approval too, which means a lot. Anybody have any questions?
Sure.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Not questions much, but compliment and thank you for coming to our city. We're looking forward to your involvement.
Thank you.
I do have to say that, being involved in the city out there and here for a long period of time, this will be the third change in your capacity. Each time I go through great anxiety, but I have to say that each move has been excellent. Kelsey came in to serve a position that had been handled very, very well. And she came from a position within the city where she really was outstanding, and she jumped into this one and she's done an excellent job. Me voting against you will not get her to stay, so therefore I'm voting.
Yes. So don't even think about it. It won't work.
I went so far as to commit myself to second nomination. Kelsey, I can't tell you how much you will be missed. And the benefit to that is that I think Rochelle realizes that she really has to dig in and do a good job because you've set the standard that's allowed me to be a council member. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilmember Ball.
I just have one question. Is it Caton or Caton?
It's Caton.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome.
Thank you very much.
And I think we got Councilmember Spencer as well.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I will say that if we have Kelsey's stamp of approval, that's all I need.
Thank you very much.
All right, if there's no more comments or questions, all those in favor of confirming our mayor's appointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? What? Were you slow to put your hand down, Annie?
Oh, no, she had a question.
Oh.
I was listening to that.
Councilmember Kennedy. Okay, any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'll need help with this one. Mayor, approving the 3-year Golf Pro agreement with Chris Johnston.
Okay, somebody want a motion? Somebody want to move item C?
Yeah, I'll make a motion
Okay.
to approve this,
Okay.
to approve, what is it?
Second.
11C.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Kyle, you want to explain?
Absolutely, yeah. So I come to you really with an apology to council and to Chris for the information I brought forward on March 4th that was incomplete based on the discussions that we had a few months ago. And so the timing was terrible. We had had informal discussions in January. This should have been brought before you right after that, and other things took priority, and I did not do that. And so for that, I am truly sorry to both council for approving something that was incomplete on March 4th, and to Chris for what he saw was an approved agreement that he was not privy to when he came back from vacation. And so more specifically, it was the line items for Pro Shop merchandise and the driving range revenue from 1% to 2% that were discussed that I did not include in my final notes when I put this agreement together on March 4th. And so that is really kind of the crux of why I brought this back. It is not fair to Chris that I did that. We had that discussion last week, and he was incredibly diplomatic about it. And he said, Kyle, if this is truly what you think, then I will make it work. And I said, that is not at all the case. And so I had to apologize to him. I'm kind of laying myself before you tonight to hopefully have you guys reconsider the work that he does, the diminished commissions that he receives because he delegates the lessons to his staff, and essentially have you reconsider based on those facts.
So the net change came to 7878.
The 7878 is from 2024 to 2025. The delta between what you agreed to on March 4th and today is roughly $3,600.
3,600.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Go ahead.
Councilmember.
No, I was just gonna ask Kyle if you can, for the sake of the public, just kind of detail what we're looking at here in case people haven't read their packets.
Absolutely. So, so what was brought forward on March 3rd was an updated 3-year Golf Pro agreement that outlines the duties of the Golf Pro and the commissions received for certain revenues that the city intakes. And of those, the 4 core revenues are Pro Shop merchandise, green fees, driving range revenue, and lesson revenue. And so for the past, I would say 9 years, those have been set at 0.25% of green fee revenues, 1% of Pro Shop merchandise, 1% of driving range revenue, and 80% of lesson revenues. And the early discussions that we had is that industry standard is that golf professionals and those providing lessons get at or near 100% of those revenues that they collect for providing those lessons. The difference, so Pro Shop merchandise, driving range, those can vary quite a bit, all the way up to 5 or 6%, all the way down to 1 or 2%. And so those do vary pretty widely. There are some inverses of this where the Golf Pro is truly an independent contractor and they take complete ownership of the service provided at golf course grounds. So they are providing all of the capital costs for the driving range, for the Pro Shop merchandise, but they collect 100% of that revenue. So there's an inverse of that that is also relatively standard across the industry.
Councilmember Kennedy, next.
Well, once again, Mayor Pro Tem asked the question I was
Okay.
going to ask. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Spencer.
Yeah, I had a question as I was going through this. What I wanted to understand is it sounds to me like he's delegating. And so the assumption is that these individuals that are providing the instructions are PGA, LPGA qualified instructors then?
They are correct.
Oh, okay.
So we have 4 additional on staff.
Okay. And the follow-up to that is, so I'm just trying to understand what things are taking him away from being able to provide those lessons. You know, and I'm assuming we haven't had any complaints that he's not the one providing the lessons?
No, not at all. And so we've had a consistent increase of demand for trailhead services across the board. I would say for the last 4 years, potentially longer. I think we had a period of, I would say stagnation, for the lack of a better term, for the maybe preceding 8 years, where he was able to, if there's nobody there, if the range is half full and they're cycling 20 tee times through in a day, he has the ability to take himself away from the pro shop to conduct those lessons. That's just simply not the case now. If you drive by there, there's stacks of people at the driving range. There are probably no less than 10 people in the pro shop at any given time during business hours, especially at the start and end of the day, where he is constantly focused on inventory for merchandise and scheduling all of these different activities throughout the day that he is no longer able to provide any of those lessons.
Any other questions? Councilmember Dunn.
Kyle, I'm grateful for the explanation of the reconcile, and I strongly support our golf pro. His work is epic. So thanks.
Anybody else? All right, not hearing any. So ready for vote? Okay, you looked like you were thinking about something really hard there for a second. All right, so all those in favor of approving the amended golf pro agreement with Chris Johnston, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-1. All right, thank you. All right, we're up to council comments. Are there any additional council comments?
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
When does the farmer's market start?
May 17th, I believe.
Okay.
Whatever that Saturday is around there.
Okay.
Is it? Okay, yeah.
What? May 17th?
That's a Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully if I've got a grandbaby coming that day, well, we'll see.
Okay.
All right, so any other council comments, questions? Nope, okay, we'll move on. We don't have any public hearings or appeals, no resolutions, no ordinances, no emergency ordinances. Introduction of upcoming agenda items is next. You've got the most recent in front of you here. We did some moving a little bit this morning during the prep meeting for the meeting here. So we've got special meeting, as we talked about, next week. We have several things for the first, including personnel manual updates, commission appointment process, if that's still okay, still on track. TIF and lift update is tentative. And then moving farther in the month, we've got several others. Is there anything on here that you think we are missing that we need to be adding to our list?
Mayor, I'll
Yes.
just reiterate that we're going to punt secondhand smoke until
Yeah.
some point in the future.
Yeah. We'll get that on there. All right, anybody else? Go ahead, Councilman.
I do think, speaking of the farmer's market, we should have a discussion
Yeah.
prior about whether folks who are running for office can participate as we've done in previous years. So I'm not sure when we want to do that, maybe sometime in April, before they kick things
filing.
off.
Yeah. Yeah, that, I don't think that'd be very long
No, I
discussion.
don't think so either.
So. Yeah, we'll take a look and see when we can slide that in. Okay, all right, not hearing any more. We're up
There
to,
was-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
There was one more. I was gonna ask Mark. Now it just completely slipped my mind. I'll ask afterwards. It'll come back as soon as we go to adjourn, so. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I sent my 2 questions in about the commission appointment process. So everybody else, if you haven't done it, do it.
Excellent reminder. Thank you for doing that. I was going to mention that, but yes, if you have questions for the next conversation about the appointment process, send them my way.
Yeah, and just so you know, I mean, I've been trying, even before that discussion to, not duplicate people. And so we've been doing that recently. I know we interviewed somebody else for the library board as well. And then we've got a couple repeats for community engagement that were that applied, and we're making very clear that those people, if chosen, they would have to choose between one or the other. So I'm kind of been trying to move that direction anyway. So just want to get that out there.
I remember what it was. If I could.
Yes, go ahead.
And this may or may not be a workshop discussion, Mark. I'm wondering if we can get a letter or a notification from the state on whether the library grant, I know we've discussed this back and forth about whether the library grant, if we receive it, has to be used on that building. I know the thought is that, yes, it does, but there was a little bit of confusion about that.
Andy's got the answer here.
Yeah,
The answer is it does. I don't know. It doesn't mean we can't apply for other grants for other projects, but Jandy will clarify.
Yes, we had to confirm when we applied for the grant that it would be for that specific building. It does not transfer. So we would have to reapply for the grant, and I believe the next opening for the grant would be to apply in 2026 for funds in 2027 to 2029.
Do they have that on paper anywhere? Was it just verbally that they told us that?
No, it's
It's in the
solid.
application.
Yes, it's in the application,
Okay.
and I did confirm it with the grant facilitator prior to starting the application.
Got it. Thank you.
So,
Got it.
yes.
All right, we are up to citizen comments. So if we have any citizen comments, we'll mark you down times 2, Mr. Clay. And if there's anybody online who would like to make a citizen comment, please send a note to our meeting host in chat.
Hi, David Clay, Liberty Lake. First off, let me say thank you to the council for addressing this issue, but let me rest assured that the communities of the River District has done everything to try and mitigate this issue. Not just one individual. There are several individuals who are chronic cigar and cigarette smokers. One individual who wrote in some of the comments, his neighbor is a chronic chain smoker. He's not a smoker. People enter his house think he smokes. So he's inhaling the cigar smoke, the cigarette smoke on the patio from the house next to him. Oh, by the way, our homes are 10.5 feet apart. That's how close they are in the River District. So I personally started off with the HOA. The HOA, what they say is, well, what's the city do? So from there, I went to the Spokane Health Department, ADA, because I classify as ADA with 100% disability. What's the city doing? From there, I went to Representative Schmidt. What's Chris and the city council doing? Everybody wants to know what Liberty Lake is. They're looking to Liberty Lake to set the standard of civil disturbance, and we are completely fine with civil recourse. We're not asking for somebody's house to be taken. That's just unrealistic and stupid. Our recourse is, as citizens, what recourse do we have to address issues that affect our quality of life? Moved here to be near grandkids. My grandkids can't come over to my house. My son does not want them in the backyard. We paid $750,000 for a house that we cannot enjoy. We are looking to move. That's how bad it's getting. I'm having another surgery in April to deal with the same breathing issues that's as exacerbated by this. So we're not asking for laws to be passed. We're asking for you to help us as citizens of Liberty Lake. I love living here, but it's going to drive me out. It's going to drive me to Montana or Idaho, where we can buy a piece of land somewhere and we don't have to deal with it. But that's not why we moved here. We live an 8-minute walk from our kids in the same river district. We love the river district. So we're asking you to help us help solve this. I would applaud the HOA. You address them, because we already have 3 petitions in with the HOA for other reasons, and we're not getting any recourse. So again, thank you. I'm willing to work with you. I took the time to write the ordinance. I put it there because I didn't know where else to put it. I think a non-punitive chapter would be awesome, but the residents need to have some type of recourse, and we're looking to you as our representatives to help us with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's no further comments, no additional, come on up.
Just want to say thank you again for your time, taking from your busy lives to hear this out. Again, on the secondhand smoke ordinance, I appreciate all the comments and insights. We're not looking to take anybody out of their home. That's extreme. We have addressed the issue with the HOA. They have no bark, they have no bite. So we're looking, frankly, the intent behind what we're looking for is just some sort of recourse, defense. We have a neighbor who's not neighborly. We have put up with things. He has a variety of things. No, I don't know everything about him, but I'm pretty sure he's not a VA that needs medicinal marijuana. But, a variety of nuisances and things that endanger other neighbors just proves he is obviously not interested in being a good neighbor. I don't smoke marijuana. I don't care if anybody smokes marijuana. I do care when they stick their carcinogenous inhalants into my kid's bedroom. So I don't care to stick my nose into their business. So just looking for something that if this does come to be such an issue, like it is now, that the residents can do something about it. I'm glad to hear that there's next to no complaints about this. Does it seem excessive to have something passed because of one person? Maybe, but it's going to drive someone like David Clay out of the community, who's a great citizen. He's an upstanding citizen who passionately wants to take care of this great community. And it seems kind of backwards if we're going to allow something to drive someone out of this community because he, myself, others are being adversely affected by it. So we have tried to take necessary steps. It seems pretty excessive that I'm here. I miss my kids' bedtime. But I'm here because I want to find a good place for their health. And I appreciate you hearing us out. We're trying to just find a good way that we can have a due process that we aren't just left to just asking please over and over. So appreciate your time and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Sorry, and I'm Adam Wallace for you guys to write down again. Hope I'll be quick so we can all get out of here and go home and see kids and things. I just wanted to suggest potentially looking at chapter 6, which is the noise ordinance that already exists and has those civil infractions built into it. Potentially moving the smoke restrictions over to that might propose an easier way to not take away people's houses and things. But give the city and give the police an option to go forward. And just for reference, I have reached out to the police a couple times. On June 10th. I emailed back and forth with the deputy chief, who said there was nothing they could do. There's nothing in the law. And essentially, like, we're sorry that you have to deal with the smoke all the time. So I know there have been multiple citizens that have reached out and just giving us some recourse, something to move forward with. I appreciate your guys' time this evening.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, you guys. All right, anybody online? Okay, nothing else in front of us. We will go ahead and adjourn. Thanks, everybody.